Hey, GM everyone. Welcome to the show. Got a quick kind of informal little stream here with special guest, Dababa. Here he is on the ship. We're going to get started right after this intro. Baba, GM, man, thanks for coming on.
GM.
Hey, it's been a little while since you've been on the show, but you're one of the very early cast on the stream. Got you here with your crown little noun, looking kind of back off of noun 677. Yeah, what's been going on? You've kind of been doing stuff outside of nouns. You're kind of still kind of watching the props, but not as involved. Any kind of update or anything you want to share?
Not much. I've been on the AI wave, so playing around with large language models. Um, I think someone else mentioned this, but I also find it true, which is AI kind of removes a lot of the difficulty from implementation. So you can go from idea to execution really quickly. So I've been thinking of some stuff in my free time and then kind of building it. And then more recently, actually, a couple days ago, started playing video games again. So I started playing Civ, which is maybe a testament to the times of low volume in the market, not as much interesting going on to watch or follow.
Did you say you're playing Civ, like Civilization?
Yeah, Civ.
Oh, which one?
Which Civ am I using?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on like Civ 2, Civ 3,
They're on
way
six
back
now.
when.
They're on six, and it's totally changed. I mean, even from four to six, it's a big jump. So from two or three, it's a massive change. So um, yeah, I think it's still rated as one of the best board games, like the best turn-based game of all time.
Amazing. Um, yeah. Um, Yeah, we've been working a lot. Yeah, I think you kind of maybe saw Prop 116. We got funded by Lil Nouns to go on chain at Nouns. Um, and we're really working on this concept of Nouns as sort of an on chain MMORPG. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I've seen this thing like now the Infinite Game. Um, I think that a couple folks do a very good job at perpetuating ideals, like what noun should be on a high level, um, or like what it is in an abstract sense, like a game. And I think it's a little bit difficult, like to tangibly feel what it's like, for, to play an infinite game on chain. Um, but I do think it's a kind of cool concept, abstractly. I think the implementation of it is a little bit more rough, as even you may know as a builder. Yeah, I think one key thing about a game is rules and how it works, and I think that can be challenging, figuring out the rules and the buttons, which is kind of what you're doing right now, right? You're trying to illustrate the rules in the correct video format so that other people can see and play this game, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah, kind of at a broad level. Um, but okay, so you kind of get it, the infinite games concept. That sort of the goal is to keep playing as opposed to win. And that the rules are kind of flexible, the boundaries are flexible versus like a basketball game. You have 12-minute quarters, points, and once the game's over, the game's over. They don't play after the game's over. Whereas with nouns, it just kind of continues.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think it's like a paradox or like a contradiction because I think the difference between playing and a game is that the playing is like free and it doesn't have any parameters and you just kind of enjoy. I think the thing about a game is that it takes the fun of playing and it puts parameters around it that are kind of clear and concise. So it's the clear distinction between when you play for fun and when you're in a game. And I feel like an infinite game kind of like blurs the line on like what is actually a game. Like I don't even know if I've ever played an infinite game in my life, and if I have, it's probably abstract, and maybe I didn't even realize it.
Yeah. You certainly played a lot of finite games within nouns. Like you competed in prop house rounds, you passed proposals. I mean, just because nouns is kind of an infinite game, it has a lot of finite games within it, right? Like, didn't you win? You won prop house rounds, mandated rounds, where you got little nouns votes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The governance mandate in the fall. Yeah, and that was pre-reps, so that was when it was just snapshot voting on chain. Oh well, snapshot voting is on chain, but snapshot voting.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think if you string together a bunch of infinite games, you kind of are, I don't know. I'm not, my job isn't really to convince you, but this is sort of the thesis we're building towards. And I just feel like, I don't know, to me, it feels like you are playing nouns. You're one of the deepest players. Like you've explored like levels that are very deep. I've learned a lot from you, but you're saying basically you don't feel like your time in nouns has been a game.
No, I think that the concept of infinite game is like it's not intuitive, right? As a person, you play without parameters for fun, or you play within parameters, which is like a game, or it involves maybe competition, these factors outside of just purely enjoying. And so when you combine them, I understand that it can exist. Like maybe a layman can understand that quantum physics exists, but it's not in your experience. So in that sense, it's counterintuitive. Um, and also, I think within DAOs in general, you find a lot of churn, which means people come in, then they leave, then new people come in to occupy that space, and they eventually leave. And so, um, if it is an infinite game, it wouldn't be the players who are playing it; it would be the players who are being played based on the data. So I guess the blockchain would be having the game and playing the fun, and kind of the players would be the ones that are, you know, being used for that fun.
Okay, hold on. There's something there, but I gotta find a way to comprehend that. So you're saying the players come and go, which is true, right? Builders come, builders go, definitely. You're saying, therefore, the game. I mean, sorry, what's your point about that? Because I totally agree with you. Players come and go.
Well, if the players come and go, the game cannot be infinite for the player, right? Yeah, the for it to be infinite, you have to be participating, and who's here participating infinitely? Only the smart contracts, not the people. So the smart contract is the one that's always playing and interacting in this game. You can't play an infinite game because you'll die. I will die.
Oh, I see. I see.
I mean, even
I see
beyond
what you're
death,
saying.
right? Like, even if you just come more practically, we'll likely churn. And if we'll likely churn or die, by definition, we can't be playing an infinite game. So, I mean, I just find the concept to be difficult to grasp because as a person, one, we usually don't have infinite games in practice. Like, I don't go out into the world and just find infinite games on my way to work. I mean, I may see somebody playing soccer, which is a game, it's very clear, or I may decide to just, go for a walk or run or swim and kind of play, without parameters. But it's rare that you combine the two. And then if you do combine the two, it's more abstract. So as a finite entity in my participation in the game or in my lifespan, I have to go. So whatever I'm interacting with, this phenomenon, that will be the thing that's enjoying the kind of eternality of an infinite game, not me, the finite participant.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's a legitimate point. I think, yeah, it's not a semantic point, it's a substantive point. Um, but I agree, and I totally agree with you. It's sort of a hard concept to explain. So what we're thinking about with index card and with our next prop is we're thinking of doing, you know how we did low block party is sort of a permissionless alt front end. We were thinking of doing an alt front end for nouns, but sort of themed in kind of the style of like what a front end would look like if you're playing nouns as an infinite MMOC RPG.
Okay.
So super rough. I'm just kind of called you up here to see what kind of ideas you had, if any come to mind. But yeah, it's like we were thinking, if you think about like Pac-Man or an arcade game, they have like a top scoreboard where it's just like, the highest scores at the top. But for the infinite nouns game, what's sort of the equivalent of a scoreboard? We were thinking it was some kind of, how many players are active at any time. Like if there's 0 active players, not that interesting of a game. But if there's a lot of players, voting, proposing, etc. But yeah, what do you think about in terms of like a scoreboard or an equivalent? And does anything come to mind?
Yeah, I think that it kind of reminds me of the delegation profiles on Agora. It also reminds me of House of Nouns. They are building out these kind of user profiles. I think those are the only two persistent identities that have been like kind of collected on chain. And there may be some information on Dune if you look for nouns metrics, some work that Nefers and I did in the fall, but it's kind of like a quantification of your on-chain and maybe even off-chain activity in nouns. And so I have seen that before. Just the style of it has been more like governance and not like a game.
Yeah. All right. So here's where I'm going with this, and I'd love your feedback on this. So how could we build an on-chain graph of people playing infinite nouns? We're thinking, let's have some kind of like free NFT mint, where it's like a game, I don't know, like a jersey or like a player's card. And it would just basically be probably an ERC 721. Just by holding it, you're kind of announcing that you are kind of playing this nouns as an infinite MMORPG. You kind of buy into this, and that's how you're playing nouns. Then we could have like a voluntary social graph of the people who are playing nouns in this way.
So people come in, they kind of sign up to play the game, and then their activities are represented in this kind of graphical way. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, I mean they become part of the holders of this token. They become part of this social graph, this on-chain social graph.
Mm. And so I guess my question is, what's the difference between just looking at what they're currently doing and making some type of profile or graph versus having them mint and then from that mint, I guess, collect their social activities and graph?
Yeah, so I think one thing it does is like the thing that's so confusing is, you know, as you say, like you can be doing a lot of the things where I think you're playing kind of this infinite game, but you don't think you are. You really see it as like a finite game. But if you actually are playing it as an infinite game where you have this kind of infinite time span and this positive sum thinking, it's a benefit for me to know that you're signaling that. It's sort of like a social signal. Because infinite gamers, I want to play with other infinite gamers. I don't want to play with people who aren't sort of positive sum and playing this like larger game. I mean, they can play. I'm not opposed to them, but I want people who have an expansive infinite games mindset.
That makes sense. And I think one challenge would be um, engagement and participation. Because, for example, um, if you wanted to find a delegate, which is like, governance is a more basic level of abstraction than a game. Um, so if you look at governance, it's like an easier scenario than maybe a game that you have here, and you find a lot of analogies. So the governance platforms that we have, one of the innovations was delegation, and it's proliferated. If you look at Agora, it's gone now to optimism, so it's grown out and branched out just from nouns, perpetuating the meaning and helping people with governance. And but if you look at the participation on the governance platform, as far as like actually delegating versus like an activity like um, voting, is we still have a long way to go to improve governance, and not just nouns, but that all DAOs. So what I'm saying is like it's difficult to get people to, and even when you have a good platform, good idea, it's hard to get people to engage with it to build the network effects that would make it useful. I think that would be the key challenge. And if even simple applications like a governance platform, you know, doesn't get like create a Cambrian explosion of delegations, you know, a game would have more challenges. Now, there are some positive analogies. Like, for example, there's some innovations that have come out of these platforms, like liquid delegation. That's a new capability we didn't have before. So you have new participants able to extend their leverage in governance in the ecosystem. That's new. That's value
Yep.
add. But you didn't notice some type of new or significant insights from all the information that's aggregated and organized and all the delegates that are available. Delegations do happen. They may happen more frequently. I think there was some promise of data delivery at some point. I don't know where it come from. They have regular meetings, so probably we should share there. Um, but I didn't observe, at least in little nouns, a large uptick in usage. But there is capabilities that came. So I'm saying all this to say that you may find that I think a lot of the value, it's difficult to rely on network effects in a DAO. Now it's DAO. That's one. Number two, it's difficult to come up with novel innovations like fluid delegation. But I think that is where it's easier for a builder to kind of control their own destiny and deliver.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Do you have any, I know you don't have a lot of time, but sort of maybe one last question. Do you have any advice as Index Card and I are going on chain? We're on this adventure. We're building, a prop for nouns, but we don't know quite exactly what it'll be. Do you have any thoughts on how we can succeed or advice about how to navigate this kind of process pre-on chain?
Um, I would say if you can, try to get feedback from the Nouniverse. That's historically and traditionally very difficult because people usually give you feedback when you go on chain. But try to get insight on what people would like in a proposal and wouldn't like in a proposal. Make sure you have a sponsor that you can actually get on chain. I know that it can be difficult from low amounts, right? You have to go to prop lot, and even after passing, it might not go on chain. So make sure you have your sponsor or a group of voters who will sponsor you identified. And I would say learn from your mistakes. I think initially a lot of props were passing. The pass rate was very high for now. With the bear market, I think the pass rate has dropped a little low. Even my prop was defeated on chain. I would say like don't take, and I don't think you are. I think you have this positive sum infinite game mindset. So I think you probably think this way with don't take a defeat as like some prescription or sentence. Like you can learn from it and iterate, and yeah, just improve.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate that.
No problem. I hope this abstract, esoteric conversation was of value to your stream.
Yeah, I mean, I really think you're a gamer. Um, but yeah, I got a lot of work to do to build this out. Really appreciate you taking the time today, Baba. Yeah, keep in touch. Um, Thanks, man.
You take care. You take care, family.
All right. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. This is a quick little pep talk from Dababa. We'll see you next time.